Bibliophiles, and welcome back to Blatantly Bookish. Today, I would like to talk with you all about Agatha Christie. So I am relatively new to the Agatha Christie fandom. I read my first Agatha Christie book in 2016, which was Murder on the Orient Express. I read it the year before the movie came out, and then I saw the movie as well. I listened to it on audiobook. It was actually my first audiobook, I think. Yeah. And then I followed it up with Murder at the Vicarage on audiobook. And since then, I've read at least one Agatha Christie a year. And I've enjoyed the ABC Murders, The Body in the Library, Hercule Poirot's Christmas, and my favorite so far, I think, is And Then There Were None. I've always been a bit overwhelmed by the sheer breadth of Agatha Christie's work. She's written so many books, and so many famous books too. So do I read them in whatever order I feel like, based on what mystery description sounds most intriguing at the time? Or should I read them in publication order? Or do I focus on one of her detectives and go through the entirety of their stories in order? Up until now, I've just been reading whatever I feel like, whenever I feel like, with Agatha Christie. But in the past week, I've read two Agatha Christie books, which are both introductions to her detective figures. I read her very first book ever, The Mysterious Affair at Styles, in which we're introduced to the famous Belgian detective, Hercule Poirot. Poirot is a refugee in England after World War I. His friend Hastings is staying at Styles Court with the wealthy benefactor who actually helped Poirot settle in Great Britain. After this wealthy benefactor, Emily Inglethorpe, is poisoned, Poirot is brought to investigate. And we're introduced to a whole host of characters, including Emily's entire family, her much younger husband, her stepsons and their wives, multiple doctors, including a specialist in poisons. The plot is full of twists and turns and secrets kept by all involved as Poirot works to solve the case. I personally don't think it's her best book that I've read so far, but it's really a lovely introduction to Poirot and to Agatha Christie's writing style, and I think it would be sufficient to get almost anyone hooked on Agatha Christie. I think it's weird that so far many of the plots of her books don't stick with me long term, but her characters really do, and her books are just so enjoyable and compelling to read. She's the perfect author to get me out of a reading slump, and when I can't decide what to read, she is never a bad choice. I've read a lot of her books on audiobook though, and I find that for whatever reason, I don't get as much out of her stories that way. For me, she is so much more compelling in print. And in fact, I feel like maybe I should read Murder at the Vicarage again in print this time and be reintroduced to Miss Marple, because I just can't recall much about that book anymore, and I did just read the other two books where we're introduced to her main detectives. Miss Marple and Hercule Poirot are of course her two most famous detective figures, but I was also really curious about Tommy and Tuppence. I'd heard them mentioned briefly, but I just don't hear them raved about in the same way as Miss Marple and Poirot. And so I wondered why, and I figured I had just read The Mysterious Affair at Styles, introducing Poirot, so why not introduce myself to Tommy and Tuppence as well? And so I read their first book, The Secret Adversary, which is the reader's introduction to Tommy and Tuppence. And it was absolutely brilliant. It's definitely one of my favorite Agatha Christie books so far, up there with the ABC Murders and Then There Were None. It's about Tommy and Tuppence, two young adventurers who are short on money and eager for excitement. They advertise that they are willing to do anything and go anywhere. Their first task is to help a mysterious man find a woman named Jane Finn, who disappeared 5 years earlier when the Lusitania sank. Before they know it, they are plunged into this crazy, life-threatening adventure, and they're up against a secret criminal mastermind who always seems to be one step ahead of them. I love Tommy and Tuppence as characters. They're amazing, and they're quite exciting and different as detectives. I feel like the detective trope is usually some sort of derivative of Sherlock Holmes, and to some extent, Hercule Poirot is a little like that. He's a bit different. He's Belgian, for one, which adds a unique flavor to his character, and he gets people to open up in a way that Sherlock never does, I don't think. And then, of course, Miss Marple is unique as well in that she's, well, not male, first of all, and she's this older, unmarried woman who just has this innate understanding of human nature. But Tommy and Tuppence are different. They have this wonderful, witty repartee, and they just look for adventure and fly by the seat of their pants. Their story is unpredictable. The detective figure is usually one step ahead of what is going on in the plot, and they're always so confident and sure of themselves, and they give a sense of calm to the book in that way. But Tommy and Tuppence are just the opposite. They have no control over the situation until the very end of the book. But for the most part, it's an unpredictable series of adventures and blunders, and they just take things as they come and wing it a bit. They're so wonderful that way, and the way they play off each other as characters is brilliant as well. They share a lot in common with Miss Marple in that they're not talented. I mean, they're talented in their own way. They can escape these horrible situations that they find themselves in. But they're not like Sherlock or Poirot, where they're renowned for their skills of detection. They're definitely amateurs, and Tuppence has this delightful spirit and spunk and bravery, and Tommy is rather ordinary, but he's got street smarts, and it's hard to get anything past him. He's methodical in his own way, but his process isn't meticulous or scientific at all. It's more observations mixed with his gut instinct and intuition. So I suppose in some ways I understand why Miss Marple and Hercule Poirot get more attention. The sheer number of works written about them is far greater than Tommy and Tuppence. I think also, though, Tommy and Tuppence are of a very specific time period. They're very 1920s, 1930s Britain, and they use a lot of slang from that time period, which I suppose could present a bit of a challenge for readers and make them less widely relatable overall. So anyway, that is my little rant about Agatha Christie. I'd love to have a conversation with you about your personal experience with her works in the comments section down below. How well versed are you with Agatha Christie? Do you have any sort of organization or plan or method to tackle her works? Are there other mystery authors that you like as much as Agatha Christie? I generally don't read mysteries apart from Agatha Christie at this point in my reading life, and I have plenty of Agatha Christie books left to enjoy, but I'm curious if you like to supplement her works with other mysteries as well, or if she's your golden girl of the mystery genre. What are your favorite Agatha Christie books and why? And who is your favorite detective figure of hers? I personally haven't decided yet, but Tommy and Tuppence are obviously growing on me. Have you read Tommy and Tuppence books before? And how do you think they compare to her other detective figures? Obviously, my knowledge of Agatha Christie is a bit limited because I've shared all the books that I've read by her with you guys, but I think that's plenty of questions to get the discussion going. Please let me know if, someone who's more experienced and well-versed in Agatha Christie would notice different things in her books, if there are certain books of hers you recommend that I get to next. Like I said, I'm definitely an Agatha Christie novice at this point, but her books just bring me such comfort and joy, and I can't wait to keep reading more of them, even though I haven't as of yet decided on a particular reading order. Please chat all about Agatha Christie with me down below, and until next time, I look forward to seeing you in another video very soon. Bye!